Greetings, Craddock here. I wanted to pop in and share a tasty nugget, of mechanics info here. Quick thank you to Tenon Muin for helping me troubleshoot, and with that, let's get right to it. Basically, what we found out is that when you're running a Haunted Visions, Ledger's Disdain, Grim Scythe type of build, the Simulacrums are also casting your Grim Scythes. You'll notice here when I cast damage on the target, the Grim Scythe damage is always the same. It's always 1945130 in this example. And I was really confused on damage because I couldn't get a correct value to come out in my calculations based on what would be expected. And that's because what I was expecting was wrong. I was expecting the average of my weapon range here to be the basis for what the Simulacrums were dealing their damage. So the average of, you see, not the big number here, but below damage per second, you see 1211 to 1643. The average of that, I think, is 1427. I was expecting that 1427 value to be the basis for the Simulacrum damage. This is not the case. What is actually happening is the minimum damage range on your weapon is the basis for your Simulacrum's damage. And it's really weird. I don't know why it's this way. Could be considered a bug. We'll see. But that's how it's happening. This is going to be hugely influential for gearing, as you can imagine, in season. You're not really going to want to, if you're running a push style build like this, a lot of builds that are going to run Poison Scythe won't necessarily have an essence dump, like a skeletal mage, singularity mage essence dump, right? The push builds, a lot of the push builds just will stay at max essence and use the damage from the Simulacrums to deal the majority there. A few of the speed builds, I can see where in solo speeds you might run an essence dump and then you might be able to deal damage as well. But it's just good to know that the damage, at least of the Simulacrums, is based on the minimum damage range on your weapon, so that when you're acquiring weapons in season, you can sort of ignore the maximum range and only seek out like really high minimum damage range weapons. So anyway, in addition, a few other mechanics tidbits. When you apply attack speed, crit, and maximum essence, these things don't really matter in regards to the Simulacrum damage. They don't increase or decrease the Simulacrum damage. You could argue that they do, the crit and the attack speed do, but they do it in different ways. The value of the damage, at least, is not going to be increased. So to just resummon the Simulacrums here, so we're reset with the, we just applied all three of those things. You'll see here the base Simulacrum damage is still 1,945,130. So basically what's happening here is the attack speed is based on breakpoints, and those are pretty varied, meaning that every 1 FPA all the way, from 1 to 60 basically, you have a different breakpoint that you could possibly be at with Grim Scythe, which is really nice. It's very there's not as many, you don't have to worry as much as like a build like Hydra basically about your breakpoint. If you want to min-max, you can still worry about your attack speed breakpoint, but that's pretty cool. The crit chance, Simulacrums do crit on their own separately, just like you do, so they have a chance to crit, and if that chance is met, they will proc their crit chance and then crit on the enemy, right? So that's how that's working. And the maximum essence, as you can see, does not have any effect on increasing the damage. So if you were thinking perhaps like increasing the pool, like you might see on like Star Pact, for example, the interaction there. No, Ledger's Disdain is simply looking at, are you at max essence or are you not at max essence? If basically how it's interacting is if the player is not at max essence, then the player will get the Ledger's Disdain multiplier. If the player is at max essence, then the player's attacks will not get the Ledger's Disdain multiplier. However, the Simulacrums will always get the Ledger's Disdain multiplier. It doesn't matter what essence the player is at. So that's basically, oh yeah, one more tidbit, and I'm going to roll a separate video section right after this showing area damage. Basically, the Simulacrums here with the Grim Scythe can proc area damage. It's a little hard to see at times, but it can happen. It's pretty cool, pretty good for the build, honestly, for something that scales with density to also be able to proc area damage. Gives it a lot of potential in dense rifts. And here we're going to pop over to Wolfram Alpha real quick just so I can show you the formula. Basically, with this test setup, the exact damage, we can calculate it using our minimum damage, which was 1211, as you recall. We were at 10,002 intellect. So you divide that by 100. You can actually put it as 002 divided by 100 plus 1 if you want, and that would even be more descriptive. And basically what this shows is that value for int, and then 1.5 is actually the weapon damage from your Grim Scythe. Or if you recall, it gives 150% weapon damage. It's not additional, it's just 150%, so it's 1.5. And then you have the Ledger's Disdain, which is 80% times 12, since Grim Scythe gives you 12 essence per enemy hit per swing. And then we're only at one target, so that's multiplied by 1, and then we're adding 1 in because we want to make this multiplier. Basically what this turns out to be is 9.6 plus 1, so it's 10.6. And then that gives us our value of 1,945,000, and this says 129.998, and that's rounded up, but as you can see, that's pretty darn exactly what we're seeing in the Rift. And you can also pop on over to my new website, craddock.net, if you'd like. And I've got a listing here as well for the Ledger's Disdain. I'm building a mechanics post, and I will also link this video to this posting. But it also has the damage formula if you'd like to see in more detail what each piece of this formula does. Anyway, hope this has been enlightening. The minimum damage range with the Simulacrums for this particular type of build with the Haunted Visions and the Ledger's Disdain is just mind-blowing to me. Like, definitely going to influence how I gear in season, and I hope this has helped you plan out your season as well on the Necromancer with any sort of Grim Scythe based build.